No one warns you that love is sometimes a no. Not the kiss, not the touch, not the birth. Some spend entire nights imagining the face of a child who does not yet exist. Others spend nights awake praying to empty heavens that the child never comes, not for lack of love, but because they've seen enough of what the world does to the innocent. The first thing a baby does when it is born is cry. The entire world has learned to celebrate this scream as a sign of life. But what if it's only the first protest against having been dragged here? What if that cry is the purest truth anyone will ever speak, a raw animal rejection of existence itself? Listen closely to a newborn scream. There was no joy in it, there was no gratitude, there was only shock, pain, and the body's desperate attempt to survive a trauma it cannot comprehend. We applaud, we film it, we call it beautiful. But strip away the sentimentality, and what remains is horror, the sound of a being realizing on some primal level that something irreversible has been done to them. Julio Cabrera, an Argentine philosopher based in Brazil, wrote a phrase that became the title of his work: "Because I love you, you will not be born." Love, in his reading, is not the impulse to create, it is the courage to stop the continuation of a tragedy. It is not a lack of hope, it is lucidity sharpened to a blade. We live in a time that calls a miracle what may be the most silent of violences, manufacturing a consciousness without its consent, throwing it into a world that cannot promise anything beyond loss, illness, fear, and the endless, exhausting effort of simply continuing. The myth of Kronos devouring his children is not about cruelty, it is about anticipating inevitable suffering. Kronos is time, and time consumes everything it generates, every cell, every dream, every moment of joy. Cabrera simply asks the question no one wants to hear: why deliver more bodies to time? Why feed the machine? The idea seems absurd until you stop and actually look around. Think of the wars that never cease, the lines at understaffed hospitals where people die waiting, the shelters overflowing with children who will never be adopted, the voices that fall silent because no one ever listened, the mass graves filled with people who once believed their existence mattered. Each of these scenes is born from the same origin. Someone once believed that giving life was an unquestionably good act. But what if it's the opposite? What if the true act of kindness is interrupting the chain of pain before another link is forged? This is not a philosophy for cowards. Cabrera does not preach suicide nor abandonment. He proposes something infinitely more difficult: to continue living, knowing that living is ethically problematic, morally contaminated from the very beginning, to be the last link in a story, not out of despair, but out of love. Because I love you, you will not be born is the opposite of selfishness. It is the most extreme form of empathy. To recognize that existence is a burden so crushing, so fundamentally unfair, that the greatest gesture of care is not to hand it to anyone else. In the favelas in Rio, a mother sits on the dirt floor with a newborn in her arms. She has no clean water, no real roof, no food for the week ahead, but she says she is happy because God sent her a little angel. This phrase is repeated every day in every corner of the world, a collective anesthesia, a mass delusion. There is something deeply dysfunctional in a society where bringing someone into the world, even under the worst conditions imaginable, continues to be celebrated as something naturally good, where life is seen as a value in itself, even when it is covered in suffering from the very first minute. Walk through any poverty-stricken neighborhood. Watch the children with hollow eyes and distending bellies. The cycle just repeats. Poverty begets poverty. Trauma begets trauma. Suffering begets suffering. Julio Cabrera calls this ontological optimism, the deeply rooted belief that existing is better than not existing. No matter the circumstance, war, famine, disease, abuse, existence would be, by definition, something positive. Western philosophy, almost in its entirety, starts from the principle that living is good. Questioning this is seen as a scandal when it should be the starting point. But the scandal is not in the doubt. The scandal is in the imposition. The scandal is that we live in a world where bringing a new consciousness into existence requires no justification, no qualification, no proof of capability. Any two people can create a human being and society will congratulate them. Life is not neutral. It is a project of constant deterioration. From birth, the body decays, cells die, organs fail, the mind becomes disturbed, memories fade, and everything that is loved is condemned to loss. The only real certainty of existence is pain and the end. Everything else is temporary. Every moment of joy is borrowed time. Every laugh is a brief interruption in an otherwise unrelenting descent. And yet we continue repeating that life is a miracle, as if that were an argument. It is not. It is a modern dogma, as immune to evidence is belief in heaven. This ontological optimism serves a purpose: to justify reproduction, to guarantee the continuity of the system, to keep the machine running. Capitalism needs workers. Nations need soldiers. Religions need believers. The machine demands bodies, and so we manufacture them, dress up the process in sentiment, and call it love. No one wants to look into the abyss that is the idea that maybe we should never have started any of this, that maybe the entire human project is a mistake we keep compounding. The unborn are never asked if they want to come, because to ask would already be to admit that being born is not a right, it is an imposition, it is something done to you, not for you. Nietzsche said that those who have a why can endure any how. But what if there never was a why? What if birth is merely an arbitrary biological event followed by decades of dragging yourself through days where the best you can hope for is not to suffer as much today as you did yesterday? Human life is structurally frustrating. It does not merely contain suffering, it is organized suffering. It is suffering with a nervous system attached. Cabrera writes, "Ontological optimism is useful for those who are already here and need to survive. It lubricates the engine. But when it comes to deciding whether it is worth manufacturing another consciousness to carry this burden, this optimism becomes dangerous. It turns into propaganda, and propaganda is the opposite of ethics." There is no logical argument that sustains that being born is always better than not being born. No unborn person can report the experience of never having existed to complain about missing out. But those who are born, they report the pain constantly. Suicide hotlines, therapy offices, hospital psychiatric wards, the screams in the night that no one talks about in the morning. This is not a philosophy of despair, it is the beginning of real responsibility. Not bringing someone into the world is not giving up, it is a break against the machine of denial. Life is not a gift, it is a duty that was never chosen, and no duty imposed without choice can be called a blessing. Being born is the first crime we suffer, and the only one from which no one survives unscathed. Every single person reading this is dying. Your body is in the process of failure, you just don't notice most of it yet. The scene is simple, universal, inescapable. The expelled body, the air tearing virgin lungs, the inaugural scream that announces another victim. The world calls this life beginning, but philosophically it is the opposite. It is the first rupture, the instant in which a being is thrown into existence without consent, without context, without preparation, and without exit. There is no door marked "I changed my mind." There is only forward, only the long march toward decay. Freud, in Beyond the Pleasure Principle, described birth as the original trauma, the moment that inaugurates the tension between desire and pain, self and world. The infant goes from the perfect darkness and warmth of the womb, where every need is met automatically, to the harsh lights and cold air of the delivery room. It is expelled from paradise into a world that will spend the rest of its existence demanding things from it. Cabrera goes further. For him, this trauma is not only psychological, but ethical. He writes, "The fundamental aggression lies in birth. From there on, everything the individual does will be an attempt to manage a pain they did not ask for." Your entire life, every achievement, every relationship, every distraction is just pain management. You are not building towards something, you are running from something. You are trying to make bearable what should never have been inflicted in the first place. Traditional ethics, since Aristotle, presupposes that life is the field where the good is realized. Cabrera proposes inverting the axis. Life is the scenario where evil has already begun, not as a result of choices, but as an ontological condition. Birth is not neutrality, it is a forced beginning. There is no contract, no pact, no signature. No unborn person signs a waiver accepting the terms and conditions of existence. And yet all human morality is erected on the fiction that living is a gift. Cabrera calls this the ethics of origin, the need to recognize that human morality is constructed after an initial aggression. Every attempt to do good happens on the soil of a primordial injustice, the fact that we were brought without choice into a terrain of suffering, limitation, and loss. Kant tried to solve the moral problem with his idea of autonomy, the rational subject capable of choosing between good and evil. But Kantian autonomy is a mirage, because before any choice, there is birth, and there is no possible autonomy before existence. A being who did not choose to exist can never be fully free. All human freedom is relative, derivative, contaminated by the initial imposition. You can choose what to eat for breakfast, but you cannot choose whether to be hungry. You can choose your career, but you cannot choose whether to need money to survive. That is why Cabrera speaks of negative ethics, a morality founded not on promoting good, but on avoiding harm. It is not about making the world better, it is about not repeating it, not perpetuating the gesture that generates the trauma. Medicine calls birth the beginning of life. Philosophy, when honest, should call it an event of total exposure, the delivery of a consciousness to a system that will inevitably wound it. Pain is structural, not accidental. It is not something that happens to life, it is what life is made of. Schopenhauer pointed this out in The World as Will and Representation. Life oscillates like a pendulum between pain and boredom. The phrase is brutal but exact. It dismantles any discourse of automatic celebration of existence. Because of being born as being condemned to a cycle of lack and frustration, the only truly ethical gesture is not to endure life well, but to prevent it from repeating itself over another being. Cabrera writes, "Birth is the only morally irreversible act. Once done, there is no return, no possible correction. All ethics that comes after is palliative, helping the poor, curing the sick, consoling the afflicted. All of this is noble but secondary. The first evil has already happened. Birth is the absolute harm." The inevitable question is not how to live well, but whether it is legitimate to cause another life. And here philosophy divides between courage and cowardice. Courage is recognizing the moral scandal of birth. Cowardice is calling it a miracle and moving on. The ethics of origin is merciless because it offers no escape. If life is structurally suffering, then the act of generating is inevitably an act of ethical violence, even when disguised as love. But this is where lucidity reveals itself. It is not about condemning those who live, we are all victims here, but about recognizing the price of existence. And only those who recognize it can love consciously, not as those who spread, but as those who contain. Birth is the initial wound. True love, the kind Cabrera speaks of, is the gesture that prevents this wound from reopening in another body. Every generation promises, "My children will have a better life," and every generation fails. Look at history, look at your own family. The pattern is unbreakable. Human beings live in this paradox. They wish to transmit love, but only manage to transmit pain in another form. They believe that by creating someone, they are offering meaning, when in fact they are recreating the same void they are trying to escape. Your parents thought they could do better than their parents. You think you can do better than yours. But better still means suffering, just a different flavor of it. Your parents' trauma becomes your burden. Your burden will become your child's prison. The chain never breaks, it only adds links. We seek continuity as if it were transcendence. We want to be remembered, to leave heirs, to create something that outlasts us. But at the root, what drives this impulse is fear. Fear of disappearing, fear of being forgotten, fear of not having been worth it, fear that our suffering meant nothing. Julio Cabrera identifies in this impulse the core of modern moral contradiction. Parenthood is a form of selfishness disguised as love. To procreate is to impose on others the same burden we did not have the courage to refuse, writes Cabrera. You exist because your parents lacked that same courage to face their own emptiness without creating a new person to fill it. And if you have children, they will exist because you lacked that same courage. The love that generates is not always generous. Sometimes it is possessive, desperate, grasping. It wants to leave a piece of itself in the world, a mirror, proof that I was here. But the love that prevents birth is the opposite. It is love that renounces itself, love that wants no echo, no air, no reflection. It is love that dissolves itself so as not to repeat the violence of existing. Camus, in The Myth of Sisyphus, said that there is no fate that cannot be overcome by contempt. Cabrera goes further. There are fates that are overcome by interruption. If if life is a repeated cycle of suffering, then the only truly human gesture is the one that refuses the reproduction of this cycle. Cabrera's anti-natalism is not nihilism. It is the extreme attempt to love without harming. Today, millions of people choose not to have children, not out of disinterest, but out of lucidity. They have looked at the world and decided, not this, not here, not now, not ever. The world is saturated, exhausted, overpopulated with interrupted stories, wounded childhoods, and broken promises. Recent studies in psychology show that child-free people report, on average, higher levels of subjective well-being when their motivations are ethical and conscious. In other words, renunciation can indeed be a form of peace. Modern human beings are exhausted not only economically, they're exhausted existentially. Work has become survival, love has become a market, technology has become anesthesia, and within this scenario, the desire to bring a new life sounds less like hope and more like stubbornness, more like denial, more like cruelty. Cabrera writes, "The perpetuation of the species is the last dogma of a civilization without gods." It is a phrase that dismantles any biological or cultural justification. Because what does it mean to give life on a collapsing planet where air kills, water poisons, time sickens, and love fragments between debts and screens? The ethical gesture of not generating is, paradoxically, the most human one left. It is not giving up, it is conscious compassion. It is the only form of love that demands no return, no recognition, no gratitude. It is love that abstains out of lucidity. In the Greek tragedy of Oedipus, the oracle says he will kill his father and marry his mother. Laius, his father, tries to avoid destiny, but by generating Oedipus, he already condemns him. The tragedy is not in the prophecy, it is in the birth. By bringing the son into the world, Laius creates the scenario of his own ruin and his son's damnation. Every action Oedipus takes to avoid the prophecy leads him directly into it. He cannot escape because the trap was set the moment he was born. Loving antinatalism is the understanding of this on an ethical scale. Every birth contains within it the germ of future pain, of the child, of the parents, of everyone who will ever love them and watch them suffer. And the only way to break the tragic cycle is not to fight against it, but not to restart it. Not generating is not the end of humanity, it is the beginning of honesty. It is admitting, without masks, that loving someone can mean sparing them the weight of existing. Human life is not a construction towards something better, it is a deviation, an operation of containment against forces that want to destroy us and will eventually succeed. Ask anyone, anywhere in the world, what they do every day, and the answer, reduced to its essence, will always be the same. I avoid the worst. I avoid getting sick. I avoid feeling alone. I avoid disappointing people. I avoid going mad. I avoid facing what I really think about my life. Existence is managed like a minefield. It is not about conquering, but about surviving the next explosion. Julio Cabrera states that life is not a positive project. It is a negative project of resistance to evil. Human life is not oriented toward the production of goods, but toward the constant neutralization of the evils that structure it. From birth, we are thrown into a world where the body rots, the mind fails, and time disfigures us. Everything we do is an attempt to delay collapse. There's no life plan, only containment plans. There's no winning, only not losing yet. Schopenhauer was brutal when he said that happiness is only the momentary interruption of pain. He understood that the core of existence is not fullness but lack, wanting, desiring, feeling absence, trying desperately to fill what constantly escapes. And when we succeed, when we finally get what we wanted, boredom, restlessness, the gnawing sense that this wasn't it, that there must be something more, that we've been tricked. Cabrera takes this intuition to an ethical level. If human life is fundamentally defensive, if living is above all containing evils, then bringing someone into the world is inscribing another being into this logic of forced containment. You are drafting a soldier who never volunteered for a war that cannot be won. This is the point where philosophy becomes unbearable. It offers no comfort, it offers clarity. And clarity here is merciless. No one can live without suffering, and no one can live without fighting every day to suffer less. This fight is what we call life. It is about exposing the real mechanism of experience. Strip away the illusions, and what remains is a desperate, exhausting struggle to keep existing for one more day. Health is the absence of disease, not an achievement, but a temporary suspension. Peace is the absence of conflict, not a presence, but a pause. Love is often just the absence of abandonment. Everything we value is defined by the shadow of what we fear. Life is lived at bottom by contrast with what we avoid. And this, when recognized honestly, dismantles any idea that living is an evident good. The negative project Cabrera speaks of is not pessimism, it is diagnosis. Life, far from being a trajectory of fullness, is a sequence of attempts to reduce inevitable damage. Every choice we make carries this hidden logic. We do not seek the good, we seek relief. We seek the least bad option. And relief, by definition, presupposes pain as the original state. Against this diagnosis, natalist discourse offers distractions: love, legacy, fulfillment, meaning. But none of these concepts survive direct contact with concrete life. Love demands sacrifice and often ends in heartbreak. Legacy fades. No one remembers their great-great-grandparents. Fulfillment is fleeting, a brief high followed by the return to baseline emptiness. Meaning is something we spend our lives trying to build from scratch every day, like someone building shelter on flooded ground and knowing the next wave will wash it away. Cabrera does not offer a solution, he offers a limit, not repeating the imposition. Living is carrying a negative project we never chose, so the only ethically full gesture is to prevent another from being placed in this same field of struggle. This does not mean that those who are alive should stop. We are already here, the damage is done, but that no one should be summoned to this task without choice. Life as a negative project is the great ethical revelation of antinatalism. To love is not to bring someone into the world to live well or badly. To love is to recognize the weight of life and not pass it on. Living is not an excuse to manufacture more life. This is the line that separates loving antinatalism from nihilistic escape. Julio Cabrera never defended suicide, nor did he preach abandonment of existence. His philosophy is, on the contrary, a call to extreme responsibility. Since we were thrown here without choice, we have no right to throw others. This is where everything fits together. Birth is an ethical trauma. Life is a negative project of damage control. True love can be renunciation. And the belief that living is good by definition, ontological optimism, is a fiction sustained only because we fear the emptiness that comes with its absence. But facing this emptiness is not weakness, it is strength. Not generating children is not giving up on life. It is assuming full responsibility for what life actually is. It is recognizing that the damage has already been done to us and that we should not perpetuate it. It is becoming the final point of a chain that was never chosen, that should never have started, but that we can at least choose to end. And this requires more courage than blindly repeating the ancestral gesture of reproduction. Because living lucidly is already an unbearable task. Waking up knowing what you know, continuing while aware of the futility, maintaining sanity while recognizing the insanity of existence itself, continuing without contaminating the world with another consciousness exposed to pain, this is what Cabrera understands as full ethics. To live lucidly is to be the last in line, not out of sadness, but out of compassion, out of genuine, radical love. And if this seems like too little, it is because we were taught to measure value by the number of heirs we leave behind and not by the honesty of our limits. We were taught that success means spreading ourselves across time, when perhaps true success means knowing when to stop. Being the last is an ethical gesture, not a biological one. It is an end offered as liberation. The pain ends in me. The chain breaks here. No one else will suffer because I existed. No serious philosophy can ignore this. Freedom, autonomy, dignity, all these concepts we hold sacred collapse when applied to the unborn, who cannot say yes or no, who cannot consent or refuse, who cannot protect themselves from our decision to create them. The only way to radically respect this absence of choice is not to act. This is the last frontier of ethics, knowing when to stop. Stop not out of despair, but out of lucidity. Not out of contempt for life, but out of respect for pain. Not out of emptiness, but out of love. Life is, as Simone Weil said, an expiation without guilt. We are punished for a crime we did not commit, the crime of existing. But to repeat the expiation, to inflict it on another, is to become an accomplice. And what Cabrera proposes is the ethical gesture of refusing this complicity. Humanity will not save itself when it finds meaning. It never will. But it can stop imposing suffering. It can choose consciously and deliberately to be the last generation. And so this ends not with hope, but with a silent pact. If you understood, you know. And if you know, you do not repeat. You do not inflict. You do not impose. You love by abstaining. You protect by preventing. You become the wall that stops the wave of suffering from moving forward. The world will call you selfish. They will say you lack faith, lack courage, lack love. But they are the ones who lack courage. The courage to face the truth without flinching. The courage to love without needing something in return. The courage to be the last instead of passing the burden to another generation that never asked to carry it. If you made it this far, it is because something inside you rejects easy answers, and that is precisely why I now invite you to become a member of the channel. Being a member is not just support, it is being part of a rare, lucid, courageous community that faces existence without masks. You strengthen this project, receive exclusive content, and help keep alive a philosophy that has no place on the surface. And for those who are already members, my most sincere recognition. You do not sustain this channel, you sustain the possibility of a thought that dares to tell the truth. Thank you. Now, an invitation that is not for everyone. The course Pessimistic Philosophy, Lucid Darkness. Do not expect comfort. It is an intense journey through the most uncomfortable and most liberating ideas philosophy has ever produced. If you feel that something in the world is out of place, this course will not console you. It will transform you. If you prefer to support in a punctual way, the Super Thanks feature is active. It is simple, direct, and every contribution makes a real difference. But the truth is, just by watching until here, you have already supported. Commenting, sharing, reflecting together, all of this matters, because this channel is not a monologue. It is a philosophical shelter for those who still think. And if you think, feel, and question, you are already part of it. Let's continue together.